Hey, everybody. It's me, Richard. It's Friday night, and guess what? I have got one of the coolest people in the world. He is Solomon Petchers. He is the author of this book that came out in 2019, Ghost in the Attic. This one came out in 2020. This is Feasters, an Apocalyptic Tale. This is the book that made me look at zombies completely different, you guys. And then the sequel also came out in 2021. I do not have my copy here, so I cannot literally hold it. But you guys, I want to tell all of you that are joining us tonight, thanks for taking time out of your day. It's the Friday before Halloween, you guys. So yes, I have got my Who's Possessed Johnny shirt on, and you guys, hey, I'm not gonna drag this out any further. So you guys, I would love to hear comments down below. Let us know who's all out there. All you guys got to do is type in a comment just like below. Like regular, your comments are going to appear on the screen to the right there. I can pop you guys in. We can have up to 6 people on screen at once. If you guys do want a video live link, I will send you the link to where you can pop in on camera. You can ask Solomon your own personal question. If you're on camera, make sure you have got your phones turned off so you don't get any echoing. And hey, you guys, I'm bringing the man of the hour in. So yeah, I'm going to pop in Solomon Petchers, you guys. So here he is. So Solomon, I want to welcome you back again. I appreciate you being here. You guys that have followed me for 3 years, you guys know that me and Solomon have done this before. We did it for his last couple books, but you guys, if I had a physical copy to hold up in front of me, you guys all know why we're here. Solomon's new book comes out November 15th. In fact, he's got the coolest thing right there. And yeah, so his new book, Cullen, comes out November 15th. Of course, now is when probably Amazon delivery driver didn't ring the doorbell. Thank goodness, so Zero didn't go crazy. But I was lucky enough to read Cullen last week. And I know some of you out there have already read Cullen along with me. So Solomon, how have you been, my buddy? How have you been? It's been a crazy week before Halloween. You're getting excited to release Cullen. So how do you feel? 3 years, dude, and you're already on your 4th book.
Well, first of all, Richard, thanks for having me back again. This is technically interview number 3, but I mean 2 that were live.
Yeah, two. Yeah, this is the second one that actually worked out. Those of you that watched the last debacle that I screwed up on. Yeah. So, hey, it's all my honor to have you here, buddy. So, how do you feel? How you feeling? 4 books in 3 years.
It's been good. I mean, I it's a balance. I mean, it's a balance. It's been exciting. I never thought, after I wrote, Ghost in the Attic back in my 20s, that I would ever even be in this position where I have multiple books. And so it's a blessing, and I'm excited that people are starting to read them. So that's a great thing for me.
And you guys, if you guys don't know, this is the one that Solomon's talking about. You guys, this was the one that I read first. It'll always be my favorite book of his. I'm going on. I want to read it again for the 4th time before Monday. But the man can write, and if you guys like zombies and if you like vampires together, his Feaster books bring the two together. And it's kind of funny because I told Solomon when he released it, it's just like, hey, I'm not a zombie fan, but so I've got friends waiting in the wing, but we're going to bring them in later a little bit. So a lot of people haven't been lucky enough to read Cullen. So do you want to do the honors and let, because I don't want to give any spoilers away. I will let Solomon tell you guys all about what Cullen is, who he is, and hey, where Cullen came from. So the stage is yours, buddy.
I've been an educator for 25 years, and so I've seen all sorts of bullying and heard all sorts of stories, and so it's right in my wheelhouse. All my books are in my wheelhouse because that's right to a YA audience. Cullen is this 12-year-old turning 13-year-old kid who's bigger than everyone else. And you would think that no one should be messing with him. And turns out he is the target of just intense bullying. And he doesn't seem to, find a way out of it. At the end of 8th grade, he decides, his mom decided he's going to go to wilderness camp. It's kind of like the last hurrah for 8th grade. And he goes because his main aggressors, his main bullies are not going. So he goes thinking he's going to be safe. Turns out he gets bullied so badly, he falls into a catatonic state where he is trapped inside of his mind room. And so the first half of the story takes place inside his mind. And he's going through this therapy in the psychiatric hospital. This therapy is EMDR therapy, where he is dealing with his past. And from there, he does return to his to normal life, and he starts at a different school. He's away from all his aggressors, and then when he the video from that night at wilderness camp emerges and goes viral, he is cast back into this role where he is the prey once again, and he is trying to deal with how to overcome this with his newfound friends. And it's a story that was hard to write because it does have some suicide ideation in it. It has some severe bullying on there, and so it's one of those things where he has to decide if he's strong enough to step up.
Well, I'm going to tell you, everybody that watches my channel knows that I'm a survivor of bullying and child abuse. And when I told you in the email, this one was really hard for me to read. There were parts that brought back childhood all over again. But those of you that are noticing, I popped up a greeting from both Tammy Ellis and her daughter, Maddie. So Solomon, this is kind of funny. So Tammy is going through this as on the mother side right now, and she's personally going through it with her 11-year-old daughter, Maddie. And Maddie is this incredible 11-year-old girl. She's the one that painted me my Pennywise picture that's on the library. And Maddie is going through this right now, and it's not been the best of things. So Tammy was going to join us tonight on camera, but Tammy has kind of she's got a really bad bug. So Maddie probably brought it home from school, but both Tammy and her husband, David, are sick. So she didn't want to join us on camera. It's not that she didn't want to. She didn't trust herself. So Solomon, I told Maddie that you would give her some personal words of encouragement. What can you tell her? It's just like, hey, I've told her, hang in there. Bullying is not a good thing. And this book was completely different than anything you had written. And speaking of books that you've written, like I said, in just 3 years, you're on your 4th book. And Ghost in the Attic was a book that, Solomon, tore me apart. But this book went places where, wow, I didn't think you were really going to go there. But so just a couple words. What can you tell Maddie, Solomon? You're a teacher. You're on the other side of it. So Maddie, here's Solomon. So Maddie, Solomon's saying these words directly to you, and this is a man that speaks from his heart. So what can you tell her?
Maddie, I've been a teacher for a long time. I've seen lots of cases, of kids getting bullied. And I'm going to tell you this, I've had kids where I've counseled and talked with over time. And they come back years later and they say, you were right. And the one thing I have to say is it gets better. It really does get better. And you just have to surround yourself with people who are like-minded with yourself. And a lot of times they say, oh, you shouldn't be talking to an adult about what's happening at school. And no, it's not true. You should be talking to an adult. Find one that you trust. And when you find that person you trust, they won't use your name, right? They will use it in the sense that, oh, this was reported to me. And we have to make sure that we're able to stand up to it and show that, one, we're not afraid, and two, that no, that's always going to it's going to get better. It's going to get better, and keep always reaching out to the people that you love and the people that you trust. Those are your allies through all of this. So it'll get better. And I've had moments where I've had, I've dealt with some bullying. I grew up in New York, and so there was always this. You had to kind of prove your mettle, so to speak. But it was the people that I surrounded myself with, my best friends who I still chat with probably weekly today, that we help each other get through those things. So have a team to walk you through it.
Wow. And Maddie, Solomon is the author that I was telling you and your mom about one night on the phone. Solomon is really good friends with Jerry Roth. Jerry Roth, as we all know, lives in that scary converted church, which is now his house. So, Maddie, I wish you were on camera to tell Solomon a little bit of what you're going through. But Cullen is this character, everybody, and Cullen is I don't want to say a stereotype, but Cullen is the kid that we all, whether we wanted to admit it or not, we all have some part of Cullen inside of us, whether it is Cullen himself or his mother, Margaret. And his mom, Margaret, is the mother that she's going to be there for her son. She is not going to allow this to go on. And a lot of you, when you see the cover of Cullen, in fact, I've had some of you reach out to me. Yeah. And some people have said in emails or comments on the show, Richard, what is that picture that on that cover showing? But it has to deal with a scene that happens in the opening of the book. And I'm not going to spoil anything because, like I said, the book doesn't come out till the 15th, but a lot of you have got the book on order. And that cover scene, that cover does have, it chokes me up thinking about it now, what he went through, but it deals with a scene that's at the beginning of the book. So, Tammy, I didn't want to have to put my glasses on, you guys, because
me too. I got mine right here.
I know I didn't want to get the glare, but you know what? This old man is just getting too old. I can't read the screen without him. So Hannah Jacobson.
Oh, hi, Hannah.
She says, "Hey, Solomon, congrats on the book launch. Your advice here is very heartfelt."
Thanks, Hannah.
And Tammy said, "Thank you, Solomon." That's from Maddie. It's she's viewing here through her mom. So
make sure, Richard, that you, if it's okay with Tammy, you get me their address. I'd love to send them a book.
Oh God, yeah, I would like to. So Tammy, is that okay? Yes or no?
We could do it.
It's like, yeah, and. Hannah just said, question, what was the hardest part about writing Cullen and what was your favorite part? Good question. Good question, Hannah.
If you guys don't know, Hannah's from Book Award Pro. She has this company where she's the CEO, and it helps authors to find competitions for their books. And it's been terrific. I've worked with her, and I've gotten several awards through kind of the suggestions of awards. So thank you, Hannah. The hardest part of writing Cullen, it's a simple answer for this one. A simple answer for this one is the first 3 books I wrote in first person. And I wanted to write Cullen differently, and I wrote it in third person, and it was so hard. In fact, you just mentioned Jerry Roth. Jerry Roth, who's got a book it just came out, actually, Throwing Shadows. Throwing Shadows is terrific. And he and I were talking about, like, Jerry, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I don't know how to write. I should be able to know. I'm an English teacher. I should know how to write third person, but it was way more challenging. So that part on the surface was the hard part. And the other part was there was several scenes. There's one scene where Cullen is making a decision about which direction his life is going to go. And that was, it takes place on Watkins Bridge, and he's just encountered this first wave of new bullying. And he's making this decision, and I had to step away from my computer several times because I wanted to do it justice, but I didn't want it to seem like, I knew it was a cry for help, but I wanted him to find a way out of it. And that was hard to try to work that way through. And I've talked to you before, I talked to you before, Richard, that I'm a pantser. So I don't know which way things
I
are
love
going
that.
a lot of times. I'm just
You need to tell people what a pantser is, because I had no idea what the hell.
So a plotter is somebody who maps everything out from A to Z, and they have all their subplots all set up. They have all their characters all set up. A pantser quite literally flies by the seat of their pants. They have an idea for a story, and they let the story develop. I don't want to say more organically, but organically, to the point where things happen and things pop up, and the way their characters act drives the story instead of the story already being driven for them.
Wow.
So,
and you'd never know that you're a pantser by reading your books, because when you read them, you get so, and I don't want this to sound stereotypical, but your books, like I've told you before when we've talked on the phone, they either are going to grab me at the beginning in an emotional way, or they're going to grab me in that storyteller way where it's like, oh my God, I got to go farther and faster to see what's going on. But Solomon, I want to welcome somebody. I'm going to put Solomon as the head person here, but I want to welcome another dear friend, Christy Randazzo. So her and Tammy are my let's say girlfriends in the closet. Yeah, they're my crushes, along with Adriana, who lives in New York, and B/Brittany, that lives in Vancouver, BC. But I'm gonna pop Christy in here because she just hey, she wants to meet the man. So I'm gonna pull Solomon over here. So let's see if I can get this to work, you guys. Let's go 3. So yeah, we're gonna pop in Solomon there, and then hey, Christy, the screen is yours. So everybody, I want to welcome Christy Randazzo, and she's my Texas she's my Texas girlfriend. So Christy, I'm gonna bring you.
Tornado.
Yeah, the Texas tornado. So you've got the stage for just, and then we got to put the man back on screen. But hey, kiddo, you got.
Well, I hate I missed out on Cullen the Ark. It's just killing me. It's killing me so bad that I'm reading these again. I've read both these once. I read this one last night, and I'm about done with this one again. These are so good.
Christy, tell them what those books are. Why have you read them a second time?
I don't know. I just love everybody in them.
No crying.
Like yeah,
we can't cry. We can't cry.
Well, so you see my tabs here. This is all my emotion.
Christy, did you handle what happened to Emily in the second book? Okay.
Oh God.
I had so many people upset with me. I have a friend of mine, Mike Spinella, who lives in New York. I grew up with him, and his daughter is a huge fan. And just before that scene happens, she's reading and she's like, Solomon, I love this book. And when the movie comes out, I want to play Emily. And then, and then a day or two later, he sends me a text message, and his daughter is under the blankets. And he's like, so stupid. This is so stupid. Why would you do that?
Yeah. The whole time I'm reading it, I'm going, no, he did not. No, he did not. And I already knew what was coming.
That's Christy.
Yeah. But these are so good. You need to be in Barnes and Nobles. You need to be in Waterstones.
He already is.
You know what's funny is I had a book signing there, and it was in January. It was immensely successful, and because we have a really great community where we live, and so being a teacher, I got the word out, and I did a Facebook invite, and so a lot of people showed up, which was great. And then they ordered those books I'm an independent author, so I don't have a publisher. I am everything, so to speak, and I take care of all that. And so a lot of times they won't buy anything because there's no refund policy. They don't have a refund policy. So they won't get their money back if they buy it. So, but the manager there said, you had such a great day, we're buying them. So there were one of my friends actually saw it. 2 of the books were in the shelves in Barnes and Noble. So I was very excited about that.
Well, we're getting these at my Barnes and Nobles, because I know the manager there, and we're getting them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Christy's gonna she's gonna try to work in her local Barnes and Noble, Solomon, at Christmas time. So it's still
No,
kind
I'm
of
not going to get to do it.
yeah. But Christy, the picture that I made my thumbnail out of where Solomon's doing this, he's in a Barnes and Noble, and yeah, that was the picture he sent me when he said, "Richard, my books made it."
Oh,
to
okay. I didn't get that.
Yeah. So yeah, I was really happy for him the day that he sent me that
Yeah,
picture.
she told me they could order them.
Yeah, they can order them because I have it. I do publish it through them. They just don't get the they have to send it back because no one buys it. Buy my book. It had that. So with Cullen, I'm actually going through Ingram Spark this time, and that way it will be distributed a little more. It'll be a little. It'll be a refund or return policy on those. So that will work out.
Yeah, these need to be like front and center. Barnes and Nobles. Yeah, because these are. I just don't know what to say.
Yeah. So Solomon, I talked to you earlier about an international friend that we both have. So she just sent me an email. So everybody, I explained to Solomon earlier, I've got somebody watching from Finland right now, and her name is Sonika. So she just posted this, and she sent it through my translator. So this is a hi, Solomon, from Sonika, and she's actually in Finland, and she just sent me a text, and she said, I'm very honored to meet this man. He has changed my life and my granddaughter's life with Ghost in the Attic. So Sonika, I'm going to tell you something. Ghost in the Attic, and Solomon knows this, that is a book that I will cherish, and I have that book right up next to Boy's Life and another book by another author that I love. And Ghost in the Attic, Sonika, was a book that fazed me too. So she asked me to ask you, Solomon, she said, I'm excited to read Cullen. Hang on, you guys. Sorry, I'm reading this as it comes across. Is Cullen based on a personal person that you know in your life, or is it made up in your mind?
Hi, Sonika. I'm honored that you're on, and I'm so glad your granddaughters found joy in A Ghost in the Attic. That's my baby. I always say that's my baby. That's my first. So Cullen was, I think, a combination of different people in my life. So, but Cullen is not based off of anybody specific. There are other characters in the story that are based off of little pieces of friendships and little pieces of enemies as well, through there. So it's not based on anything specific, but there's kind of little personalities of people. I didn't want Cullen to be the traditional small kid who gets bullied. I wanted him to be, I think a lot of people associate people who are bullied that way. And I wanted him to be this big, enormous kid that you scratch your head and wonder, why the heck are they picking on him? And why hasn't he done anything about it yet?
Yeah. And that was the thing where I told you, you wrote Cullen in a complete different vision of the kid that's bullied. Whereas we were talking earlier about Tammy's daughter and Maddie, who are both watching. Maddie is this, she's not timid, but she's a lot smaller than her bullies. And Cullen was not the small kid. He's very tall. He's a very big kid. He has a severe stutter. So when I read the book, I was just, wow, something's got to happen with this kid. But Solomon, it's kind of funny. You wrote the book, and I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but you and I both mentioned EMDR earlier. So I looked it up, and EMDR is a real thing. I didn't know it was. Where did you, or I don't even want you to say where. So why did you go to EMDR? Because this has been killing me since I read it a week ago. Why did you decide to go with the EMDR versus a physical therapist?
Therapy.
I have 4 people asking me, Richard, you guys mentioned EMDR. Is that a real thing? Yes, it is a real thing. So
I've moved into desensitization and reprocessing therapy, and I coupled that with exposure therapy. I got the idea originally was I was at a friend's house using the VR goggles. And I said, how cool am I? As I'm playing, I'm slicing at these things in the air, looking silly on the outside. And I thought, how cool would it be to face your fears inside there? Like, how cool would it be to relive some of the maybe your worst memory, maybe some of your best memories, but in my mind, where it was going was some of the worst memories. How would I go from there? And so I started to, so I looked into that, and then I love dreams and the idea of rapid eye movement, dreams. I am a vivid dreamer. My wife teases me all the time because I am also a jump dreamer where I'm sleeping and I have almost like a night terror where I'll pop up. And so I looked at those kind of things, and then I think I was doing one of those things where I was looking up REM sleep and dreams and exposure therapy. And then, of course, what does the Siri in the sky do? I started getting something about EMDR. And so I started looking it up, and I said, oh my gosh, this is the idea of using REM sleep, where your eyes are moving with REM sleep. Your eyes are constantly moving because they're processing information. They're creating images. They're taking images from your day and trying to make sense of them. And I said, well, this is perfect, because the idea of EMDR is usually you're tracking like a finger or a light, and a lot of times there's also taps. So as long as it's going kind of going over the midway of your brain, it's like these taps, and with that you start to use positive reinforcement to help lessen trauma.
Wow!
I really stumbled upon it. Wow. And it's never been where EMDR and exposure therapy have been used together. I just thought, how do you get rid of your bullies? Well, you gotta kind of desensitize that side of it so you can deal with whatever it is. And I think I used a reference in the there's a scene when he's at St. Mary's Psychiatric Hospital, and Dr. Morris is talking to Margaret, that Margaret's Colin's mother, and he says, I want to use this therapy. And so at first she's talking about EMDR and having positive sayings going in. And then he says, when she's like, that's not bad. And he goes, but then also there's exposure therapy. And I want to expose Colin to his bullies and help him to overcome by seeing images of them, and then having positive reinforcement. So as he sees the negative images, the positive reinforcement comes in each ear, follows through each ear as his eyes are tracking light. So that's that whole idea. And she loses her mind. She's like, no. And he says it was kind of like a spider. If someone's afraid of spiders, then if you use exposure therapy, you would start to gradually build their exposure to spiders, right? And so she's like, no, the thing about spiders, Dr. Morris, is you can kill them. Game over. And he goes, and as she's walking away, he says, but Mrs. Hickey, there'll always be more spiders. Mm-hmm. And that grabs her. And so she goes ahead and she sends images and descriptions of each of his bullies, and he programs them into this VR goggle set that is his therapy.
Oh God. And it's so true. Celeste just asked, this sounds very interesting, Mr. Petchers. Richard always has the best guests. Thank you so much. Thanks, Celeste. But yeah, it's I don't know. Would you God, it's so hard, Solomon, to do this because the book's not out.
You can hint, and I'll try to.
Okay. Okay. So I'm only going to say one word: Claire.
Yeah. So Claire is Claire Matherson and Evan Stevens were his main nemesis through middle school. And Claire is, in fact, I'm working on another book right now because people who were my original beta readers said that I didn't close that well enough with Claire. Like they were like, no, like she deserves more, type of thing. And so I'm working on a new book right now where I'm actually in that same universe, and I don't know where it's going to go. I have no idea. But Claire is one of my characters in there. But she is while he's inside and by the way, he is in a catatonic state. And the only reason they start this therapy is because now usually his eyes are just kind of in a distant place. They start to track light. And that's where Dr. Morris gets this idea. So he's being exposed to this while he's in a catatonic state. As long as his eyes are moving and he's tracking, the brain and how the brain's working, he believes he can do it. And so Claire, because Claire isn't the head of the snake, it's Evan. He exposes to Claire first, and from there
I hated him. It was like
good.
I hated him. And Solomon, it was like when you and I did this the first time, and we were talking. We had our Stephen King shirts on, and we were talking about Carrie and stuff. Claire and Evan were so much your version of Chris Hargensen and Tom and Billy, and I just.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I hated him. And I just know that when people that are watching this or people that follow you as an author or even a teacher, they're gonna hate her. They're gonna hate her. And it was pretty powerful. It was.
Yeah, she had such a hold over. I think in a lot of cases, such a hold over him more than Evan did, where Evan was more of this physical presence. Claire was this mental presence throughout the book where, she would manipulate others to do her work, so to speak.
Mm.
Yeah, she was.
So I have somebody, this is Solomon. Alicia is one of the UK viewers. So I'm going to try to pop this. She's trying to type. I'm going to see if this works. It should go across.
Hi, Alicia.
It should come up. Oh, there it is. There it is. So she says, Solomon, do you have nightmares? And if so, from what?
I am like the nightmare king. I have nightmares, I would say, several times a week. And sometimes there are things in the room, that type of feeling. It's funny is Jerry Roth, he's talking about his home, which is an old church, and his son Jesse, who is now was hearing voices inside the house. And so that's what my dreams are like. I'm hearing voices. I hear this. I did have one where I was sick and like dying, and I had to say goodbye to my kids. And that I woke up. That was one of the first few times I woke up actually crying. That was a tough dream. So
was that recently?
It was probably a good couple of months ago. I know. Every time I talked about it, I started crying. I'm an emotional kid, So, but I do have dreams. Usually, there are things inside the house or in something outside, leaving around the house.
You're so much like me. It's so funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very light sleeper. My wife, I finally my wife works out early in the morning, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and she'll always give me a kiss. And when she first started doing that, it would I'd be sleeping and she'd come and give me a kiss, and I'd be like, and she's like, calm down, you crazy.
Oh my God. That's so funny because, Christy's right here, but I'm Solomon. I've always wanted to tell you this, so I'm going to pop Christy back on for a minute.
Yeah.
And Christy, where Solomon, you're the king of nightmares. Tammy, as you might know this or not, I don't know if you know this or not, Solomon, but Tammy and her daughter, Maddie, they are people that love to go into real scary and haunted places. But where I don't know if I would do that. I'm a big chicken. I'm scared of, I'm 6'4". Yeah, I'm big. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4". But when it comes to going to Halloween haunted houses, I'm fine. But Bruce loves to scare the hell out of me, kind of like your wife does when she comes in and kisses you when you're asleep. But I'm the biggest chicken. But Christy has, I'm going to put her on the spot. She's probably going to kill me. But there's a scene in I'm not even going to, bring up the scene. But Christy, do you want to tell Solomon how you handle your nightmares? I'm gonna pop her back on, and I'm gonna put the two of you together. So I'm gonna have Christy.
I'm laughing at him.
I'm gonna
You probably scare your wife half to death doing that.
I don't mean to, it just happens.
So Christy, tell Solomon. Tell Solomon.
I have some doozies.
Tell Solomon about your little nightmare that you had not too long ago. Where I'll let Christy tell you about it. So
I just have like night terrors. I wake up and I just know somebody is in my bedroom, and I scare my husband half to death. And one night, it was so bad, I flew out of the bed. And I broke a table in half trying to get out of the bedroom, put a big, huge bruise on my arm. It's that, and I'm the queen.
It's not funny, but
I'm the queen.
It is.
Yes,
funny.
I used to have as a kid. I had night terrors. It was horrible, and
That
so
still
I totally know
happens
that.
all the
And you find yourself like in the middle of the room after you wake up, and you're like, "How in the world did I get here?"
Yeah. Or I scare my husband to death. He wakes up yelling at me, "What? Somebody's in here."
Solomon, there were a couple scenes like that in your Feasters books. Did you?
Yes. Yes.
Do you when you write? I know you said you're a pantser, but some of these scenes of just these there's a couple scenes in Ghost in the Attic that I'll never forget. So as you're writing these, do you find yourself in your books? You've got to find, there's got to be scenes in your books that you've relived as your personal part in your life.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I totally do. Especially when you're moving through an unknown space, just that feeling, like when I'm writing it, that feeling of hair on the back of your neck and moving through. So absolutely, there are definitely scenes that I put in that are very specific to probably actually to experiences that I have had, and some I make up on the fly, but certainly yes, I have to use those are my those experiences and what drive most of the stories.
So Solomon Thomas Anderson, he lives in Southern California, and he is a grandfather. I've given all 5 of my grandkids 3 copies of Ghost in the Attic, and 2 of my granddaughters the Feasters books. Where did you come up with the image for the new book that's coming out? Can I ask you? So so these things, these comments that are coming up, they're coming through me in instant messenger right now. So you guys can all leave comments down below so I can pop them on screen, but there's the image right there.
Well, this is so I could definitely see where you're thinking the first scene in this book where he gets wrapped up in toilet paper when he's being chased at camp. This is him. So he is trapped inside of his mind room, and
I think he's asking, is that a photo or is that somebody's artwork?
No. So the skull itself. Actually, both these images are from Canva. Believe it or not. Where this right here, this was hand drawn. So these 2 were hand drawn by my buddy Ferry. Ferry is he's a guy I met through an author on Twitter. And Ferry, I gotta send him this video when we get done. But Ferry is a guy. He's from Indonesia, and he just does fantastic work. And so I sent him. So these images here, and what I sent him and what he did with it are way better. I want the idea of he's inside his mind, he's inside his skull, and he's trying to get out. He's peeking to get out. And so this is from originally from Canva. I did the font is from, I can't remember the font, the guy from the font.
The font looks like the font from the Terrifier films and Art the Clown.
It does actually. Yeah, this is the Why So Serious, I think, font. And then the back, which I thought this image is terrific for me because it almost is like you're outside of his mind room looking in. He's got his hands up against the wall. There's several times. There's that scene when he first wakes up and he's inside his room at the hospital, and he's kind of feeling the windows. And he's talking about how my mind room didn't have windows or doors. And
you know what that scene reminded me of, Solomon? that scene reminded me so much of the nightmare that Ivy Templeton had in Audrey Rose. And when I read that, that's what I was visualizing was that poor little girl hitting that rainy New York window and getting burned on that ice cold window. Cullen, like I said, you blew me away where you went with this book, because I wasn't expecting what I read, and I was just like, whoa, where did my Ghost in the Attic man go? But
I wasn't sure what I was going to really, honestly, I mean, I had no idea which way I was going to go with Cullen. So I had to go back, because again, in that pantsing where I was going through, and I said, maybe I'm going to do it this. I remember you saying to me, right in the beginning, your first 5 chapters, your first impulse Margaret was, I'm not sure if I trust her, the mom. And that was your first. And so I wasn't sure which I was going on that as well. I was, how am I, and my wife, who's my biggest critic, she was reading this, and we're reading through the first, she read through the first part while he's in the hospital, and she's like, where are you going with this? And she's like,
your wife asked you that?
Yeah, she's like, where are you going? Who's going to be the person that we wind up loving, hating? Like, who is going to be that? And at that point, I did not know in the beginning of that, and I kind of just developed organically as I was really getting into the minds of my.
Yeah, the way you did it was just, I don't know where you come up with this stuff, but
and you've known all the bad guys in my books. They feel as if they have a purpose, and they do, and they, you hate them, but you even though they're misguided, there's a level, and I want you to have a little bit of a level of empathy for them. You want to hate them, but the idea is, oh, this is the purpose why you're doing it. So, when you're looking at Dr. Morris, when you're looking at Margaret, what are their purpose? What is happening here? And where is it going to go? And that's what I really wanted you to take guesses. And the Cullen, with Cullen and his friendships the new friendships that he makes, I wanted and I'm not going to give anything away, but I want the reader to go along knowing what's happening. I didn't want it to be, it wasn't like a big mystery, so to speak. I want you to know what's happening, and I want you to go along with this ride.
And it's a ride that, once we buy that ticket, you're not going to get off the ride until you're at the end of the ride. But I think one of the thing that I'm never going to forget about this book was the lunchroom and the school lunchroom. And I don't want you to go into anything about the scene, just that lunchroom, the school lunchroom, and Claire are two things that I'm going to remember from Cullen for the rest of my life. And I don't even know what to say, because
what I wanted to do is also, when he's got his VR goggles on, he's going through this therapy, he's reliving these events. And as he gets stronger, he starts to control the narrative inside the therapy. Mm-hmm. And that makes him stronger. For him to come out. So mm-hmm. that was a big piece.
So, Solomon, how many physical pages are in the physical book? How many pages are in it?
I don't know. This it's funny. I remember you saying, and I'm waiting for Solomon to write a 600-page epic novel. I remember one of the videos when I think you reviewed one of the videos.
Me and Christy were talking about one of those huge epic horror books.
Well, this is like 400 pages.
Yeah. So these are, Ghost in the Attic, for everybody who hasn't read it, it's got like 110 pages. And then I wrote, it's funny, my wife, because she's my biggest critic, and she she'll tease me about it when Feasters came up, she's like, "Oh, look how thick it is! It's like a big boy book." And then the circle came, and it was more pages. And she's like, "Oh, you really?" And then this one's got right now $325 for that one. So I tried to go 6, it wasn't happening.
So
I count this as one. I count these as
I
one
can see
book.
that. I can see
Yeah.
that.
yeah, so is Cullen a book, Solomon, that you would? We all know it has to do with bullying. Would you give it to a 12-year-old kid to read?
I think I would give it to a 12-year-old kid with the caveat, and I'm a teacher, and
I think that's why I asked you that, because you see this on a daily basis. I would give it to a 12-year-old kid.
I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. I think would I recommend for my daughter's 13? I know she would love it, and my son who's 8 definitely not. But he did read through the Feasters. He plowed through the Feasters and Goes to the Attic. So
yeah, you said he read the Feasters both. Yeah. He read both of them.
But this is it's a tough. That's why I put the trigger warning in the beginning, because I just want people, when they open it up, to know this deals with bullying, and I want, here's where you can get help, and here is with suicide, and here's where you can get help. And so I would recommend for a middle school kid for sure, just with the caveat, again, being a teacher, understanding that this is what it deals with. And I would definitely.
Yeah, and me and Tammy were talking about the trigger warning at the opening in the front of the book. And when I did the review on my channel, I was glad it was there. It gives that reader the option. Do I want to delve into this? Yeah. But being a person who has read the book, any of you that are out there wondering, is this a book that I delve into it? Because it's not what you think it's going to be.
Yeah, it's not gratuitous. It's not
gratuitous.
None of my books are. I mean, really, anything that deals with blood, even in the Feasters books, it's never gratuitous. I think it's the teacher in me, it's the dad in me, and I just think that Jerry and I always talk about, Jerry Roth and I always talk about, how getting darker and and we always talk about how we can add to our books, and he's like my number one sounding board. Anytime I have something to talk about, we talk a lot. Probably I imagine probably 5 days a week we're chatting, and
how long have you guys known each other?
We've known each other.
I know this, but there are people that are watching that don't know this about Solomon and Jerry.
I think it's 2019 when Ghost in the Attic first came out. We connected on for my wife. My wife, and biggest fan of Jerry Roth. Yeah, Jerry and I connected on social media. It was the funniest thing. We connected on social media, and thanks Tammy. We connected on social media, and it's funny. We started off by just direct messaging through Instagram. And then it was like, hey, and finally I was like, here's my phone number. Let's text through going down the app. And
so that was before you ever wrote Ghost in the Attic.
It was just after. Yeah, it was like he was coming out with his book, and I had mine, I think, just released, I believe. Jerry, if you're there, let me know if that's right. But yeah, just when that happened. So, and he and I, and finally, just the other day, it's funny. He's like, I didn't feel like typing. Give me a call. I'm like, whoa, this is a big step in our relationship here, buddy. And so we finally talked to each other.
And Jerry Roth is one of those. It's kind of funny because I'm a huge fan of both of you guys, but Jerry Roth writes this. Like when he did Bottom Feeders, as well as I do, it got very, very dark. I love very demonic, and that's what I loved about it, and that's what my partner Bruce loved about it. But I was talking earlier today to a couple of people, and they were like, I really want to buy this book, Cullen, at Christmas time for some of my grandkids. But like we said earlier, Solomon's writing isn't gratuitous. There's no graphic sex. There's no graphic language, but
hey, I used damn and hell in this one.
You did a couple times. And I was just like, wow. I was like, dark, nasty, but yeah, it's definitely a book that you need to delve into. It's a story that needs to be told, and it's a story that needs to be thought of in a complete different way, because you do take the bullying and we get to look at both sides. We get to look at a teacher side with Miss Saunders. We get to look at the parent side with Margaret Hickey, Cullen's mother. But most important, we get to live that whole, and this is where I get choked up. This is where you get to live the whole experience with Cullen as Cullen goes through it. And that is where your writing shines. You can take that reader into that. Wow, here's a character, here's a person I'm trying to show you, whether they're good, bad, evil, or good. It hits right here. And there's people out there that are the bullies that are watching this. I know there's 3 people right now that I know are bullies. And one of them is a girl. And we were chatting the other day, and she was like, I can't wait to read Cullen because I was a bully. She was the bully in junior high school and high school. So she said I could say her first name. So her name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
And Sarah lives in Chicago, and she was a bully. She was a bad bully, and she was like 2
Claire
of the bullies
Light?
in your book.
Claire Light, right?
Oh my God, yeah, and Sarah and I have talked about this before, and I don't think I've ever asked you this, Solomon. Were you bullied as a kid?
Where I grew up, I was always the little guy. And so I had to develop a big mouth early on. The baby of 7 kids. I grew up in Long Island, New York, and I had to develop a big mouth so that I wouldn't get bullied. And so it's one of those things. And
Has it worked?
It worked beautifully because people thought I was tougher than I was until I want to say it was 8th grade or 9th grade until a good friend of mine who I was mouthing off to because, I was being who I was, got off at my bus stop and popped me in the face. And so, but I was never the bully, but there were instances where I just had a big enough mouth and I was scrappy enough to, if you did want to fight me or if it ever came down to it, I didn't back down, and you're going to kick my butt, but you were also walking away with a couple of bruises and respect, and you're going to respect me.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny because I asked you that question because Maddie has been through some really severe bullying, and it's kind of funny that you're a teacher and you're sitting here talking to all of us about bullying in Cullen. And, I think one of the hardest things for me to grasp about Maddie being bullied was, she would say, well, Richard, my teachers don't say anything or they don't see it. And you writing this book, being both the author and a teacher, it's something to experience. And it's.
And it's funny, if you notice, I put those two teachers in, Mr. Heineke, who was every student's dream teacher.
And I had two Mr. Heinekes, and I still, associate with one every, year at the holiday time. And which was your favorite, him or Miss Saunders?
Miss Saunders was terrific. I like Miss Saunders. I had to bring her back because of what happens in the beginning to her. And so I had to bring her back. And so I love her. But Heineke is the type of teacher who, he gives him that when Cullen first comes in the class, he gives him that reassuring wink. Like, I know what you've been through. I got you. And
that's how I picture you as a teacher, because remember those pictures of when you and I first started talking and when we first met, you had some pictures of some of your students coming and having you autograph books.
Oh, yeah.
Pictures. You could just see it in those kids' eyes. Wow, this is my favorite teacher. Or Mr. Solomon, Mr. Petchers is, my favorite teacher. And you probably are. You're probably that Mr. Heineke to so many of your students. And it just, we all had one of those teachers, and yeah, him and Miss Saunders were completely different, but they're both the same person on just different kind of levels. And yeah, I just I think
we all dealt with that teacher at the end of the story who who's trying to be the friend of all the kids. And I always say that as a teacher, you have to make sure you draw that line. It's always I'm friendly, but and a friend when you need it. But there are people who cross that line who want to relive their glory days of being in high school, and so it happens rarely, but when it happens, it sticks out.
Mm-hmm. So I got a quick question. So what do you want? I have a girl, she's sending me instant messages. Her name is, let me see if I can read this. I got to put my readers on. Sorry, you guys. So her name is Tanya. She's 15 years old. I don't know why these people are sending me these through instant message instead of just typing them on She's like, "Hi, Richard. I've watched your channel since your old channel, and I remember when you interviewed Solomon the first time. What would he like his readers to get out of his books?"
Great question. Hi, Tanya.
Good question.
Great question. I always have a moment in my books where everything feels right. Mm-hmm. And it's that idea of there's this whirlwind happening, and I want you to have this meaningful moment towards the end of the book or at the end of the book. Sometimes I'll throw it in the middle where I just want you, first of all, to go along with the ride. I want you to get emotional. I want you to connect with the characters, but I want you to walk away relating with the characters, whether they're zombies in the, or not zombies, but vampires, whether they're, just a small 5th grade kid, like in Ghost in the Attic, or Cullen and Lori. I connect with that idea of the emotional connection where you say, you know what, I see that person in me. I see that moment in something I had with my family or with my friends. And so that's really what I want you to walk away. I want you to walk away thinking after the book or after that moment that this is why I read. This is why I watch movies. This is why I do these things. So I want to make this connection. And that's the biggest thing is I want you to make a connection with the characters, connection with the story. Yeah.
Okay. So
Tanya.
Solomon, this comment is actually coming through the channel, but he's got it blocked. He's like, "Hey, Richard, my name is Andrew. I'm 17 years old. I live in Alabama. I'm bullied on a daily basis because of who I am as a person. As I sit here and watch this man talk to you, I'm sitting here weeping, and I'm asking Solomon," this is going to make me cry. "What would you tell one of your kids if one of your kids were in my position? Thanks for taking my comment. Richard, keep up the good work. Solomon, I loved Ghost in the Attic as well as Richard did. But I'm at a loss. Do I tell my parents or do I tell my teacher?"
This breaks my heart, and I'm glad that you're reaching out. I'm glad you're speaking about it. When you're bullied, I honestly believe you cannot go it alone. You have to have, just as bullies, I think, have a pack mentality. You, as someone being bullied, has to create your own pack. You really do. And it's not necessarily that you're going to go and go to war, but you have to create your own pack. And it involves, and should you tell your parents? You have to. You have to. You have to. They have to know they are your number one ally. Should you tell your teachers? You have to. You probably have guidance counselors. I know our school has guidance counselors where you can just go and sit down and talk with them and really lay it out how you're feeling. And a lot of times they'll get parents together, they'll bring your parent in and come up with strategies, but you have to have what the bullies have. You have to have a pack mentality.
Yeah. And I just forwarded him. He's telling me right now. This is terrible having to put my readers on. So I have thought at the age of 12 years old that I thought the world would be better without me. However, when I hear stories of this coming from an adult man who seems to care, it gives me hope. Mr. Petchers, I'm looking so forward to reading Cullen, and I cannot wait for the book to come out. So, yeah, there you go. So it happens even to 17-year-old kids. And
real quickly, the world is a better place with you in it.
There you go, Solomon.
Solomon, do you see this a lot?
We see bullying at school. Yeah, quite often we do.
Time.
We do, and a lot of times, I don't necessarily always deal with it directly because our guidance counselors have the tools and the resources, and so a lot of times, if it comes up to me, I'll walk the student up to the guidance counselor. I'll send them an email and say, "Hey, need you to have a talk. Here's what's happening right now," and I always get the permission. I always get the permission of the student to, "Hey, may I talk to the guidance counselor? May I talk to your parent? If I know the family, may I talk to your parents about this?" Because I think it's important because you want to build that ally. And if they say no, there's an unfortunate breach there that I have to kind of go, "Hey, where is this going? And what am I going to do to protect this child or this person?" And so a lot of times I'll have to go and say something and let them know, "Hey, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with this. I need to go talk with somebody on your behalf." And most of the time, because I've built a rapport with a lot of students, that it turns out okay.
So Solomon, you can read the question that's up on the screen now. It's from Grave Abyss, and they ask, "Can you name one book that was recommended to you that you deeply cherish?" Good question. Good question.
Great question.
I know this because I've asked Solomon this before, but
I have different ones though. I don't know if it's the same. I don't think it's the same one. So someone recommended Needful Things way back in the day, Stephen King, and that King Stephen King. Yeah, he one day you'll hear about him. He's pretty big.
Christy and Tammy and all of you know where me and Solomon are going with this.
Stephen, if you're out there, just reach out to me and I can talk to you.
I've never heard of the man. I've never heard of him.
No, Needful Things was a book that I believe was, it might have been my brother who recommended it, and I read it and I love that book. And then I remember watching the movie. The movie, it paled in comparison, but was still entertaining enough. And right now, actually, I have it on audiobook in my car. I'm 24 hours into a 28-hour book, I think.
And the audio version is very well done.
It's terrific. I was like, oh, this is like, there's acting and there's bells and there's chimes. And so, Needful Things was one of my favorites. And I know another one, The Dark Half, again, with Stephen King. That one scared me. That was a friend of mine told me about, "Have you read this book, Dark Half?" And I said, "No." And I read it my freshman year of college. I think I told you this, Richard. And we had a college. I was at Anderson University, and the bathrooms were in like a communal bathroom.
She's giving you the thumbs up because she's a huge Stephen King freak.
And I remember going, I can't go to the bathroom, and I have Crohn's disease. And so there are times where
oh my God. Oh my God.
So getting up in the middle of the night, I'm like, "Hey there, Hoss."
Talking about bathroom issues, and we were just like, "Oh my God." The Dark Half. Timothy Hutton, I thought, was great in the movie. George Romero did a great job on the movie, I thought. And that's another one I would like to reread again. But
on my list again.
Hannah Jacobson, I'm ready for November 15th. Thank you for sharing so many cool stories with us today. And Hannah, it was really it's funny because so many people haven't been lucky enough to read Cullen yet. It was really, really hard to talk to Solomon about the book without giving away too much. But
hey, I have a question for you, Richard. Did you the scene on the bus? How did you so after
I will never forget when Cullen meets the man again, the bus driver.
Oh, that was that moment I want to
Oh my God, Solomon!
Al, yeah. That's one of those moments I wanted to sit with the reader. That was the message.
I think that was probably that was harder for me. I mean, I'm just going to give you one little motion. Yeah, it was. I think that was my favorite scene in the book. In fact, I wrote about that scene in my journal, and that book and that scene on the bus. It was hard for me to read because of what was happening and who it was happening with. But that's my favorite scene in the book. And when Cullen comes around back to the whole bus scene, after, he talks the whole thing with Miss Saunders and stuff, that's a scene. That's probably my favorite scene in the book.
I wasn't even planning on writing that, and then I just kind of I was listening to my band POD. I love POD. I've listened to them for years, and they have a song called "It Can't Rain Every Day."
Every day,
and that song has been just near and dear to my heart. And I was like, you know what? In the circle, I have Modest Yahoo's "Unique Is My Dove," which is my love song to my wife. So I have it in there. One day I have to go to Modest Yahoo concert and throw my book on stage. But
throw your book on stage and just make sure you have it folded or creased.
Some people throw bras, and I'm gonna throw a book. So so no, but
so Solomon, speaking of
bras, no.
there's not always going to be rainy days. I want you to tell the viewers the first time that Cullen gets positive reinforcement said to him. What I know what it is because I have it written down right here. But everybody that's watching this, Cullen.
Yeah, if you give me the scene.
Cullen. Well, I don't want to give you the scene, but Cullen learns to, let's say, peel the layers off the onion. And as he starts to get more words of encouragement, since I don't have a physical copy, there was a scene or just a little half sentence that you tell when Cullen first hears about his worth. Tell the readers what you wrote in that one sentence.
I don't know what page is on. Is it when he says that he's never when he wouldn't know your worth?
Yeah.
And he says that he never really knew what his worth was.
There you go. The very first time.
He's never been told what his worth was. He's never been sure his mother's love is one thing, but never been told what his worth was. And so the story he has to figure that out.
I bawled. If I could have a tattoo tomorrow, that's what I would have tattooed on my arm.
Know your worth.
Know your worth. And it's like the young man we just talked to, the 17-year-old. Life is, this planet is so much more pretty with you on it. And it's just, you get one life. And Solomon could tell you this better than I could. You get one life. And hey, you might only be 17 years of age, but you're going to live to be 67 years old. So don't let, Solomon could tell you.
Just a season for you.
There's not always going to be rainy days. You might feel that way now, but, and this goes out to Maddie if her and Tammy are still listening too. Kiddo, I was supposed to be there this last week for your birthday, but it didn't work out. But don't let the bullies get the best of you guys, because there's too much out there. And Solomon, throws the words at you in his books and his writing. And Solomon, and I could look you in the eyes right now if you were sitting in front of me. Your worth is just, I can't wait for the next one to come out. And wow. So Christy, I can't wait for you to read Cullen.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's
such a pleasure to meet Solomon. And
you too, Christy.
These are so special. They really are.
Thank you.
And
they really are.
My viewers in both the UK and Finland are getting ready to sign out. So Sonika said, Solomon, thank you so much for taking the time. It was great. I am looking forward. It's really hard to read this translator. Sorry, Sonika, it's not your fault, but the translator comes across as the tiniest letters, and she's like, hopefully it will come out on November 15th here in Finland. I know it'll probably be not for a month or so later. Looking forward to it. It's time I read Ghost in the Attic again. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Richard, for having Solomon on. So, Sonia, I want to tell you thank you so much for tuning in all the way from Finland. And
that's awesome.
Jonathan from London said it's been great. Yeah, so
thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Sonika.
Yeah, so here's a little note from Tammy. She just said, thank you both for the encouraging words. And kiddo, Tammy, you're an incredible mother. And just like I'm sure Solomon is a father, and as Solomon is as a teacher. And I don't know, Solomon, you can tell Tammy you're a parent. Just when Maddie comes home with that really bad day, Tammy and I have cried together on the phone about what's going through with Maddie. And Solomon, with you being a dad and being that teacher, probably just like Mr. Heineke was, you could probably tell her better than I could.
In the story, Dr. Morris, he goes through this thing with his own child, and he wishes that he had said other things to him. And I think, first of all, everything starts off with a hug, and I love you more than anything else. And then again, finding your resources, finding your allies, finding your pack, and that's the biggest thing. And as a parent, in my life, it was my own child. Reaching out to the school and finding out how we can deal with it. And a lot of times you find out, I've seen this before, where bullying situations tend to be something so trivial that, what the incident or the problem that one person has with the other is so trivial that I've seen people overcome that and actually become friends, or at least become somebody who is they are cordial to each other. I know there's that the scene in the book where Colin finally faces off against Evan, and I think both of them walk away with an understanding. I think, and with that, I think you have to build your pack. You have to have your support group and your people, and that comes with communication. It's the best thing you do. But again, starts with a hug, and I love you. And then building your team, your army.
So
Solomon, thank you, by the way.
I want to tell you thank you so much for taking time out of the day and doing this. And you guys pick up Solomon's books. The man can weave a tale like, you think you're going to go into just a typical ghost story or a typical story about zombies and vampires ruling the world, but Cullen is a book unlike any book he's written. And hey, young man, I just want to tell you thank you so much. Hopefully you guys
should be on Good Morning America.
Oh yeah, because if a story should be told today, it's of course I would automatically put Ghost in the Attic right as a double feature. But Cullen is a tale that needs to be told, and as hard as it was to read, it's a great book. It was
hard to write. It really was hard to write, and so a lot of times I had to step away from my computer and kind of gather myself. So it's a tough book, and again, it's not gratuitous. It just it lays it out there, and.
Hey, and Veronica, I just want to say, I don't know how you do it because, I don't know how Bruce does it with me with my nightmares. So, Solomon, keep up with the, I don't want to say keep up with the night terrors, and Christy, you the same.
Christy, keep up with those night terrors.
I just want to, keep up with those nightmares, Christy, and Solomon. So, I just want to tell you again, thanks so much, and have an awesome Halloween. So I want to tell everybody thanks that tuned in. Tammy, Veronica, of course, Veronica Celeste, and Grave Abyss and Sonika and Tom in the UK and Alicia in Germany. You guys, it was a blast. And I will definitely have Solomon on again. He doesn't have to have a book coming out for me to have him on the channel. And he's just a great person. So you guys take care. Have a wonderful night. And like I say every night, live your life like a scary book. And Solomon, close it out with some words of wisdom to somebody. You know, just hey, yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait till Monday. It's like,
I want to give a shout out to my ARC readers. Thank you so much for taking the time to read this book and throw out the reviews on there. So I appreciate it so much. And thank you, Richard, for having me on. And Christy, thank you. Finally get to meet you.
I
So
do.
awesome. I know. So it's been terrific. And again, it can't rain every day. And
it was our pleasure, dude. So I'm going to sign off from everybody else, and then Solomon, just hang back for just a second. All right.
got it.
Okay, you guys take care. I will see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Bye, you guys. So I am going to end this broadcast, young man. So hang on.